Welcome to the Auto Dealer Influencers Podcast.
Brought to you by TurboPassUSA.
Featuring conversations with successful auto industry influencers and innovators, sharing tips and strategies to help make the car buying experience less stressful and more enjoyable. With your host, Patrick Jarman.
Welcome to the Auto Dealer Influencers Podcast. This is pretty exciting. This is our inaugural KickOff episode of this podcast. And that nice little voice that you just heard there is your official host, Patrick Jarman. Patrick, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for being here, even though this is your show. Yeah. I'm actually kind of pinch hitting for you right now. We did this cool little reversal of roles thing for today because I'm kind of wanting to introduce the listeners to not just the show, but also to you, Patrick. I want everyone to know who you are and a little bit about you and what you do. So that's why we're kind of flipping the script here just a little bit. And I'm coming in. My name is Marco, and I am the podcast producer. But today, I'm kind of the fill-in host for the show. Right. So that way I can pull out some information about Patrick Jarman.
Yes.
And a little while ago, Patrick, we were having a cool conversation about a lot of things. We were like solving all the world's problems, right? Yes. But we were having some great convo. And one of the things that I had mentioned was that I feel like your knowledge at this point of TurboPass is that you could probably talk about this stuff in your sleep.
Yeah, totally.
Because you, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is you've been eating, breathing, and sleeping TurboPass for the last few years. Is that right or no?
Yeah. I mean, before there was money to pay, right? Yeah. I mean, I
grassroots, bro.
Yeah, grassroots. I made it.
Yeah.
Every video about the company just about was
done by you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So you were like truly that shoestring budget marketing guy when TurboPass started. Is that right?
Yeah, shoestring or less. That's right.
Yeah, that is freaking awesome. So, I want to talk a little bit about some of that, okay? First and foremost, though, before we go that route, let me establish what this podcast is going to be about, okay? So, again, this is called the Auto Dealer Influencers Podcast, right? We hear that term a lot nowadays, influencer, right? Being an influencer on social media, like Instagram, that's become like a thing. That's like, hey, I'm an influencer, I'm getting paid for my views and all that. But I'm going to make this clear. That's not really what we're talking about.
Right.
Okay. That's not the only definition of what an influencer is.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm a little bit more in tune with the old school definition of influencer in the sense that let's call it more of an offline influencer. I'm talking more about somebody who has worked their rear ends off. We can't cuss on this podcast, by the way, so that's another.
Oh, okay. Very good to know immediately.
Yeah, we'll establish that ground rule up front. But it's okay if one slips out because we can edit that. We can beep it out. But we're not going to run this like some popular podcasts that run for 3 hours long that are very popular in the United States right now, where every statement has a cuss word attached to it.
Right.
Okay, so I digress just a little bit there. But influencer in this sense is somebody that is obviously from the auto dealer background, right? Somebody who is doing something in that space, someone who is who has built something in terms of either the actual dealership itself or someone that's built a career in that space. Okay?
Right.
Now that could be selling cars, that could be financing the automobiles, that could be anywhere within that sphere of the auto dealer network.
Right. The whole spectrum, yeah.
The whole spectrum. We intend on this podcast to give that said person a platform, highlight them, showcase their abilities, and ask them questions about where they came from, how they got to where they are today. Okay?
Yeah.
We want to pull that story out because here's one thing I've learned from being a podcast host for some time now and just in life in general. Everyone has a story.
Yes.
And here's what's cool. And we're living in an age of AI, and AI is very popular in a variety of ways. But one thing that AI will not ever be able to touch is that individual's unique story.
Right.
That you can't just compute with a computer on an algorithm, and that sort of thing. That is unique to the person. And so when we bring someone on this podcast, Patrick, the goal with auto dealer influencers is to be able to hear a little bit more about their stories. We want to know their backgrounds. Here's one thing that I think is just so vitally important. I like to also talk about what kind of obstacles people have overcome.
Right.
Another word for that is failure.
Right.
Okay? Because usually when somebody finds success, almost always there's some type of failure that happened before that they were able to overcome.
Yeah.
And so part of this process is going to be highlighting their success, but it's also going to be highlighting some of the things that they maybe could have done better or that just didn't go the way that they wanted to. And so I wanted to establish that very crystal clear up front, what this show is going to be all about going forward. Because again, this is our first one. We're kicking it off. We're just having a fun conversation about this. But going forward, every episode is going to highlight someone.
Right.
Someone, some way, shape, or form. I'm also going to go ahead and call it now. Sometimes this show may even highlight somebody from a slightly outside of the actual auto dealership type of person, as long as what they do still ties in with it.
Yeah, credit or banking world or financing world, yeah.
Correct. We may even bring on an occasional fellow employee of TurboPass.
Right.
Because each person that's within this company is doing something a little bit different.
Yeah.
Each person plays a different role, right? So part of it is, too, we may bring on someone from time to time, or they may also be kind of like a guest host as well, along with you or along with me, asking some of those questions that are from the point of view of their role, right?
Yeah.
Because they come in with a different point of view because they're like, well, I specialize in this for TurboPass, or I specialize in that. So my question for you, Mr. Auto Dealer Guy, is going to be a little different.
Right.
Because this is like what I know.
Yeah, different than the technology guy or
You nailed it.
product or marketing. That's right.
Now, let's kind of go down that direction. So we've established what the show is going to be all about. I want to just ask a little bit of questions about like you and your role, Patrick, with TurboPass. Okay. So you've already established that you were like the ground zero guy doing some of the grassroots marketing, right?
Yeah, at very, very beginning, I thought I'd get into the product side, and I was learning Laravel, what our software is built on, and I made the terms and conditions button, and that was about it. I made the terms and conditions button, and then took a little hiatus, and then I started making the videos for the product as soon as there was an opportunity to make videos about the product.
Yeah.
And everything marketing related just about after the summer of 2021 is when I came into that role.
Into more of that official marketing role.
Right.
Summer of 21.
Yeah, then beforehand, about 8 months on the phones right after our big break, so to speak, with Westlake in 2020. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've actually filled in for several roles.
Yeah, that's right.
You have a little bit of experience on the phone. You did a little bit of techie type stuff.
Yeah.
But you found your it seems like your true placement though in more of the marketing side.
Yeah, totally.
Of the equation.
Right.
Okay, got you. So let me just ask you, this is just again to my point earlier about like AI and then like the person's story or the person's unique point of view, right? This is going to be unique to you.
Right.
What do you see TurboPass as from your point of view, all your experience doing this with TurboPass? How would you describe it? Like, what do you think ultimately, in a little paragraph, so to speak, what does it do? What do you think TurboPass does?
It's a quick truth teller. Yeah, that's as simply as you can put it. Any business that wants to know the immediate truth on someone's banking, or we envision anything someone can authenticate.
Yeah.
We want to give business owners and their employees the ability to validate any account their potential customer or their current customer could validate. So at the moment, that's banking, payroll, utility companies, and soon to be car insurance companies.
Sure.
And really everything in between is what we hope to be able to do. Yeah.
Yeah, fill in those slots, fill in those gaps.
Right.
Yeah, I see. And so with that in mind, you alluded to what was the last statement? Insurance?
Yeah, car insurance.
Car insurance. Okay. Because my next question was going to be, so that's what TurboPass does. That's what TurboPass has been doing. And from what I can see, that's what TurboPass does very well. What do you see from your point of view, the future looking like for TurboPass? So you haven't added insurance yet, right? That's something that
Now, like a month. Yeah, a month. I'd say 1 month more.
Okay, so you're almost there.
Yeah, almost there with that one.
You're almost there.
Yeah.
So in other words, if I'm at the dealership and I want to buy a car, they have to obviously verify certain things beyond my credit report.
Right.
We're all used to the credit pool thing, right? Like that's been around for some time. It's accepted. Like I don't have to bring anything in. I already know that you're going to pull my credit.
Right.
Now I could come in with, I guess, a pre-approval letter from my own bank, right? But I think the great majority of people don't do that. They go in there, they're like, "Hey, where's your credit score at?" "Well, I think it's about a 500. "Well, let's find out what the real numbers are, right? And they ask for your social, and they're able to get an immediate snap the fingers response, and they're able to say, "Okay, here's our snapshot. The numbers don't lie." On those credit scores, right? It turns out you thought you had a 600, certain, no, it was a 490. All right?
Right.
So there's usually some discrepancies there from what people think their credit scores are to what they actually are, right? But the report doesn't lie.
Right.
On the credit side. And so the auto dealer in this example puts a whole lot of credence and a whole lot of trust and confidence in that credit report that they pull, because they have all the confidence of knowing that the information is accurate and that the numbers don't lie. Because sometimes the consumer will intentionally lie, and sometimes they just don't know where their credit score is at. They usually think it's a lot better than what it is, right? They're like, "Oh yeah, no, I think I'm in pretty good shape," and it's like, no, it turns out the vehicle that you want to trade in, you're like 6 months late on it right now,
Right.
Stuff like that, right? And so, am I wrong though, Patrick, in my understanding that you guys are essentially applying a very similar concept, but instead to these other categories, namely income?
Yeah, you're namely income and employment. That's right.
Income and employment. So in other words, I go in there and say, I work for this place and I make that much. Right. Okay, well, bring me something that proves it. So they're still in the Stone Ages when it comes to that. You're going to let me bring in something that I could really, in this technology, digital age, I can tweak that?
Yeah, and not only could you, it's so frighteningly common. Mr. Customer is doing exactly that because I've done my own research into the websites that come up on Google when you type in "make my pay stub," and I mean, over 1 million people a year visit the first thing that pops on Google for that, and I used a website or two to discover the average duration someone spends on that website.
Yeah.
And it's over 4 minutes long. So the average person who is searching to manufacture a pay stub seems to actually be doing it. I mean, I've never just browsed a website for 4 minutes. I'm either interacting with it or I'm not.
Correct.
So
correct. Man, I love how you just dropping stats, man. Like you got the numbers.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But
that's a fact. That's a fact. People are a substantial amount of people are going just to to that one search term, to that one website, spending an average of 4 or 5 minutes there, which means they're taking it seriously. There's a pretty decent chance they're going to pull something out of there, right?
That's right.
And so here a lot of these people in these finance offices are just totally expected to use this credit reporting system that gives them the honest to God truth about the credit score. But a lot of them are still in the dark ages when it comes to verifying the income and verifying the employment and opening themselves up for absolute disaster, potentially. It would be like somebody coming in and being like, here's my credit report, and like the numbers are scribbled on the top.
Right.
The credit score is scribbled up at the top. And it's like, okay, we'll go with this. You got an 850. Pick out your car.
Right.
And it's almost laughable, right? It's almost laughable. But in a sense, is that not kind of what's still happening when it comes to income and employment verification?
It's still in the Stone Ages. I mean, as there's no direct competitor for TurboPass. So as far as we know, we're the first to the auto market, providing this instant validation for income and employment. And there's a ton of other industries that are still like that. They want screenshots of documentation, and there just isn't companies doing what we're doing in the way that we're doing it, providing businesses with a tool to validate these things they need to validate, to know the truth. You need to know more than just credit score in most instances.
Yeah.
And that's what we're giving business owners the power to know.
Yeah. Now, can you give me an example of where I would need to verify the insurance? Where would I need to do that? What's that? What purpose does that solve?
So just about, I don't know what the requirements are for every state, but for example, when I got my car in April, last April, I needed to have car insurance before I walked out the door. And in most cases, you just print it out.
Yeah.
We're going to modernize that such that dealers already using TurboPass, their customer authenticated either their income through their banking or their pay stub.
Correct.
They can send them just one more text and also authenticate the car insurance.
Okay, because it sounds to me like the insurance thing is another. The requirement for providing insurance probably, can be traced down to some sort of liability. We are not going to be liable as the dealer for letting you hit the road without insurance. So there's a burden on the dealer to say, I need you to prove that, which again, I could probably show up with some sort of a document where the expiration date is adjusted on my insurance.
Right. Now, I don't know what the statistics are regarding insurance, but it's a problem we're here to solve. And because all we know is there's a want for it, because in the most recent survey of our dealers, out of the options we gave them, they said an insurance report by vast majority was what they were interested in getting out of us. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the reason why TurboPass has decided, you know what, we'll fill in that gap as well, in addition to the other things that you can get. When the information is pulled up, Patrick, how long does it take to promulgate that info and
if you know off the top of your head your username and password to the kinds of institutions we connect to, it's 2 minutes. It's always, I don't know my password. I got to scratch my head about it. That could elongate the process of a TurboPass report to take longer than 60 seconds or 2 minutes, because I've obviously done it a million times. I work for the company. I'm the speed runner. I can probably pull a TurboPass report on myself faster than anyone else. Right. So for me, I can do it in less than 60 seconds because I know every button to click immediately. Right. Like,
but for someone who is not as well versed as you, right, we're talking 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, we're talking 2-3 minutes because you just click some continue buttons, username and password, and then if your bank wants you to answer a security question, because that's how they interact with third parties, and that's a lot of them, right? But I mean, it's like whatever you set up when you did your bank account, right? So what city you're born in, or Wells Fargo is like, we just sent you a text message, copy and paste it. And that's the last step. After you complete that part,
Sure.
the customer is done.
Yeah.
And then the dealer or whichever business is the TurboPass subscriber, they'll have the report on the other end, immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty impressive, man. That really is impressive. It sounds like you guys have a solution that will really make things a lot smoother, less headaches, less frustrations within that environment, right?
Yes.
And that's what you guys have been doing for the last few years. It sounds like you've gotten the system down really well, and it sounds like you're only going to make that process even better going forward. I think we all know that in today's age, the world is pretty much governed by this very profound form of communication that we call memes. And I saw this brilliant meme today that when I was surfing, I think it was on Facebook, and it said something about it was a girl that I'm friends with that is in the some sort of a financing role. And it said, hey, can you go ahead and send me your income verification document? And then underneath it said, the income verification document. And it was just basically a blur. It was just an image with a blur.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why memes become shared. There's a reason why certain things get passed.
Yeah, because that's real. That occurs truth to it. Every dealership right now who doesn't know about TurboPass, how they're authenticating for bank statement deals, is screenshots, and you're scanning it or whatever, and it's pictures of paper,
and it's shoddy.
Yeah, it's shoddy.
A lot of times.
Yeah, it's shoddy.
Right, exactly. And so when you receive that, guess what happens? Now you got to respond. You got to get on the phone. You got to email, text back, whatever it is. Sorry, we can't work with this.
Right.
And then you got to cross your fingers and hope that whatever they go to solve and come up with a better solution will work now the second time, however long it takes them to get that. All the while, the likelihood of that deal closing is diminishing.
Yes.
As each probably hour goes by.
Yes.
Right? And I would imagine there's a fair amount of deals that get lost completely as a result of just not getting what they need to get.
Right.
Right? Either the guy doesn't really have it, and so he's sending that crappy stuff, or he does have it, but he's just super sloppy about the way that he scans it, takes the picture, screen grabs, whatever. Right? So these are real problems.
And it's real problems. And some of my favorite customer reviews of the product is how they've used TurboPass in their process, not only on the front end when they're just getting started with a customer, but for those deals that died because of reasons like you just described.
Yeah.
When you get a TurboPass report on that customer, okay, now this deal is actually revived because I have the most up-to-date information.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And there's going to be some sort of a percentage of those deals every single month, every single year that fall into that category that just fell apart, right? And I would imagine if you were to compound that and look at it from a macro point of view, it probably adds up to something pretty decent, probably pretty substantial, right?
Right.
So we're not talking about little micro numbers here that are being lost. It's probably, depending on the size of the business, even the smaller ones is probably decent. The amount of transactions that don't fully, go through or that don't fully close. Then there's that whole other world of just avoiding the fraud, which costs everybody more so in the backside in the long run, right? So there's some pretty significant reasons to tighten this stuff up.
Yeah, totally.
And to, solve these problems and make everybody's lives easier.
Yeah.
Including the customer. Yeah. Including the end user, right?
Yeah, it's in everyone's best interest. That's
for sure. Yeah, for sure. Patrick, this information has been amazing. Thank you so much for all your insights from your point of view, from your knowledge. We are going to have some super exciting episodes coming up.
That's right.
And the reason for that is not just because it's you who's going to be the host, but because the people that we are going to invite onto this show are really, these are the people that really kind of matter the most to TurboPass, right?
Yeah.
Since TurboPass is obviously the sponsor of this show, we want to show love and highlight the individuals that are out there. Whether we're working with them or not, that doesn't matter. We want to just highlight the people that are in our network, that are in this space, that are in this world that TurboPass lives. And we want to really bring to light the movers and shakers that are out there. Because a lot of these people, they don't really get a lot of credit. They don't really get a lot of recognition. They're just busy. They're doing their things. But once in a blue moon, it's nice. It's nice to just be highlighted. It's nice to be recognized for the efforts that you've put forth, right? And let your peers hopefully, know about it. Because if we get a visitor on the show, we want them to take this episode and feel really, really proud about sharing it with their own network.
Right.
Right. And going and sharing it on their social media, or just sending it to their mom and say, Mom, check this out. I was on this episode and these people were asking me questions and, they really made me feel special, man. And you know what? Maybe I don't even give myself enough credit for what I've accomplished, So that's what Auto Dealer Influencers is all about. That's what we're going to be doing. I'm super excited about how that's going to play out.
Yeah, me too, yeah.
And I really look forward to hearing from some of those individuals and their unique stories. And I'm sure that you do as well, Patrick.
Yeah.
So
yeah, totally.
I think that pretty much does it, my friend. We've established what we do here at TurboPass. We have established what this whole podcast is going to be about going forward. As I mentioned earlier, today was just a kickoff. So we just wanted to get those things out there, have a fun conversation, and let our listeners know. Because a lot of people do start with that first episode whenever there's a podcast. Like, well, let's just see what this thing's all about.
Right.
So this episode will be listened to. People will want to know, what the future holds. And then from there, they can go ahead and jump forward to their favorite episode with their favorite person or what have you. So I think that pretty much clears that up and lets everyone know what we're going to be doing. Do you have any final statements, any final parting words, any thoughts, anything that you want to leave us with before we sign off?
No, I'm super excited to see what's next, and that's all I gotta say. And I'm excited to have the conversations that I'm going to have with the most influential people in the auto finance space, in the auto world. Yeah,
that's it, my friend. That's it. Well, Patrick, I think that pretty much does it. I'm Marco Salinas, your co-host for today. And, of course, you are Patrick Jarman, and you will be doing a lot of hosting going forward. But we're going to be tag teaming this thing. We're going to be helping each other out. We're going to be having a lot of fun with it. So, like I said, we look forward to it all. Thanks, Patrick, for being here.
Thank you.
And that about does it, folks, for the very first ever episode of the Auto Dealer Influencers Podcast. We hope to hear from you, and we hope to see you soon.
You've been listening to the Auto Dealer Influencers Podcast, brought to you by TurboPassUSA. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show, or to listen to past episodes, please visit TurboPassUSA.com/podcast.